If you've ever tried running a business or even building a property portfolio with your partner, your life partner, your spouse, you'll know it can be both incredibly rewarding, but at times incredibly stressful. The kitchen table becomes the boardroom, the bedroom becomes an office, and before you know it, every day feels like Groundhog Day. But it doesn't have to be that way. Welcome to today's episode of the Michael Yardney podcast, where the focus won't be on property today, but on the challenges and benefits of being in business with your life partner or spouse. And joining me today is Mark Creedon, together with his wife Carolyn, who've been married for 19 years and been in business together for 15 years. Mark's been my business coach for well over a decade and business coach to many successful property investors and business people. And Mark and Caroline are now my business partners, and Mark's the CEO of the Metropole Group of companies. Now, Mark and Caroline have helped hundreds of couples align their business goals without sacrificing their relationship or their sanity. And here's the exciting part. Mark and Caroline are running a one-day workshop in Brisbane on October 18th called Aligned and Empowered for Couples in Business. And it's designed to help couples reconnect, reset, and move forward together with clarity, harmony, and a shared vision. So today, I'd like them to share the key lessons they've learned about how couples can thrive together in business and in life. So let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Michael Yardney podcast, where twice each week you will learn a number of new ideas regarding success, property investment, and money in around 30 minutes. Our show is brought to you by Metropole, who specialise in helping you grow, protect, and pass on your wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. Now, here's your host, Michael Yardney, Australia's authority in wealth creation through property, who has been voted one of Australia's top 50 most influential thought leaders.
Welcome, Caroline and Mark, to the Michael Yardney podcast. We speak all the time together, but I don't think we've had the three of us on a podcast. So let's have a chat about couples in business and in property. Let me start with a hard question, Caroline. What's harder, being in business with Mark or being married to him?
Depends on the listener. I think I need to be a little bit diplomatic. No, Mark's a wonderful husband and a very good businessman, and I wouldn't be telling the truth if it's all roses, because business is not all roses at the best time.
Well, while normally we talk about property and money and success in this show, I know a lot of our listeners and viewers are in partnership with their life partner, their spouse, whether it's in a business, a trade, or in property. So I thought I'd pick your brains because you're actually in a very unusual position. Not that you've been married for 19 years and that lasted, even though that's an unusual position, but you've been in business together for 15 years as well. And so I'd like to, I know there are challenges having been in business with Pam for a long time as well. So Mark, what do you see as some of the biggest challenges that couples face when working together?
I think a couple of things. One, a bit of a lack of a shared vision. So not being on the same page, probably starting out being on the same page, but as the business has evolved over time, roles have changed. And I think the second thing is a lack of a really clear role definition. So you get a lot of blurring of lines. You get people not swimming in their own lane. And then I think the third thing, Michael, is really a lack of balance. So we find that you're having business conversations at home and home conversations at work, and the whole thing just falls out of kilter.
That makes sense. Now, we're talking in particular today about people in business, but it doesn't mean that you're both on the tools. Often in businesses, Mark, the tradesperson or the technician or the professional is out and the other spouse is at home doing the paperwork, the appointments, keeping all the bits together.
Yeah, we see that often. But then the problem, I think, with that is that sometimes you get a little bit of resentment building where somebody's going, I'm working harder on this, or yeah, but if it wasn't for me, we wouldn't have the money. And so again, you get this sort of role blurring going on, which can ultimately lead to resentment. And I think that's what pulls apart a lot of couples in business, Michael.
In property, it's not exactly the same because it's not full time. But Caroline, they do seem to have different needs. Some people are big picture people and others are more detailed. Sometimes that clashes. Are you finding that with couples that you coach?
Yeah, that is very common to me. In our situation, for example, Mark is very much a big picture thinker, and the frustration lies there for me because I'm not a big picture thinker. I do on occasion when I'm in a planning stage, but the detail in my in my thought, and lots of other people in business. Devil is in the details, so you need to have that balance between the two,
You
and
need
whether
both,
it's
don't you?
whether it's an accountant's or a trade position, it still needs to have.
So while it actually is a strength of couples, whether it's in business or property investing or anything, it's also a challenge, isn't it? Because sometimes people don't think they're understood. Would you agree, Caroline?
Yeah, I think so. But I think that, well, yes, I do. But then I think that if the respect is there and both people know the values and the ultimate goal of why you're in business together, then that is less so. I think there are elements of that. Yeah.
Now, Mark,
I don't think I understood what Caroline just said, Michael. Did you? Did you follow that?
well, that is the problem, but it's actually not necessarily just between couples. It's also we've got to understand that different people take information in differently. And I know in Mastermind, you actually teach and coach the clients about the different styles of taking in information. And you've got to understand that different people do it differently. Some are auditory learners, some are visual learners, some prefer reading, others big picture. And so it is useful to have somebody help direct you. And I know that's where you have helped me and the other people in Mastermind as well. I think you've also specialized in couples in business, and you found that sometimes they're not aligned and they seem to come into the same problems over and over again. You called it Groundhog Day. Why do some couples end up feeling stuck, being stuck in the same cycle over and over again?
I think some of it comes down to, Caroline was saying before that some people are detailed, some people are big picture, and some people have to have both. But I think that the thing is that where the real issue comes in is when you're not on the same page. So if you've got one person that's really detailed and they're stuck in the detail, and the other person's going, but hang on, I want to go ahead, I want to look at this big picture stuff, I want to move forward. And so the person that's in the big picture feels like they're getting pulled back. The person that's in the detail feels like they're getting dragged out of their comfort zone. And that cycle just continues to go. So until such time as you develop clarity around the conversations, you have a really clear script and a process for communicating, and you've got structure to the way you run the business as a couple, it is going to be like Groundhog Day. You're just going to get up and you're going to end up arguing over the same things. And I think the big issue is that often what you do is you end up arguing about the wrong things. So you end up arguing about whether you're right or whether I'm wrong with it. Yes, you do. It's at the argument room.
Yeah,
So
well,
you
let's
argue
ask Pam.
you argue about those things rather than the things that really matter around where's the business going, what are our team doing, what's our goals, where do we want to be in 12 months' time or 3 years' time.
I think that's really important, Mark and Caroline, that you need the big picture, you need the vision, you need to know where you're heading. And that's just as important in property as well, when all the challenges come up, when the government changes regulation, when a tenant gives you trouble. So it is important to share the big picture. Caroline, what happens when partners don't take time to align their visions?
Well, obviously the asset relocation that sometimes happens, but when you don't align, you're not going to get you're not going to get to the goal as quick as you could. You'll probably still get there, but there'll
You
be
don't
lots
even know
more
what the goal
roadblocks.
is sometimes.
Well, that's true, yeah, but you can't be in business and not have some goal. You have to have some goal, be it short term or long term.
The other thing too, Michael, if I can just jump in and say this, that if you've got a team of people, and you know this for when you and Pam are in business and Caroline and I are in business, if you've got a team of people and they don't see that we're on the same page,
yes,
there are some people that will tap into that, and next minute they're playing mum against dad. They're no different to kids, right?
No.
In fact, we took our granddaughter Eloise out to do some clothes shopping, and before we left, her mum said to her, now no toys. And then as we're going to the shop, Eloise is saying mum said that to me, Eloise is saying to Caroline, look, I think we should get some toys because I think mum would want me to have toys. I mean, this is this is what they do. They think they can play one against the other, and not necessarily in a mean, a terrible or a manipulative way. It's just human nature to get what their objective is.
Well, you see that in your role as CEO at Metropole also, don't you? That some people know who the right director or head of department to go to is because they're more likely to get what they're looking for.
Yeah, we've just got 65 children here in lots of ways, Michael. or playing mum against dad.
So, Mark, how can couples avoid stepping on each other's toes and then, I guess, play to their strengths rather than have these hassles, these challenges?
Yeah, it's a really good point. So one of the things that we do, Michael, is we conduct what we call a zone of strengths audit. And it really is just looking at the couples in the business and going, right, what is your strength? What is your strength? And work out, it's like a strengths and weaknesses assessment, but there's a process that we go through to achieve it. And it enables people to live in their strengths and for each person to live in their own strengths. And then they work out how they can complement each other's strengths and weaknesses and then fill that gap. So if there's a weakness that they've both got, then they can find somebody else in the business or outsource or contract or whatever it might be to fill that gap. So that strengths and weaknesses audit, I think, is a really important thing. And then the other thing is just some structure to how they communicate. That I remember, Michael, having a conversation, not couples, but for you and a business partner once. And I said to you, do you guys ever have robust conversations in your meetings? And you turned around and said to me, what meetings? We never even have meetings, let alone robust conversations. So there's got to be some structure, even if there is only the two of you.
So, Caroline, I guess you've got to have structure in your meetings, but you've also got to know when to do them. I guess there's certain times in the day you don't approach your partner, or when there's other hassles or challenges or emotional things going on. You need some emotional insight, don't you?
I think, yeah, absolutely you do. And I think if you don't know your partners or your business partner in any form, if you can't see when they're at a limit, then you really need to stop and look at yourself and saying, what am I not seeing? Because you're not being fair with not seeing things like that.
I know that you, as a couple, also have strict rules about where you speak about business and where you don't. And I think it's a challenge, especially for people who work from home, which you don't. But if you do work from home, it's probably even harder, isn't it, to separate business and personal life, Mark?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, we've got this sort of saying, the kitchen table or the dining table becomes a boardroom table and your bedroom becomes a meeting space. We are very careful about it, but that doesn't come about by accident, right? So you've actually got to have a very clear process, and we've got things that we use. We've got a tool that we use. We call the decision filter, which is just a way of having people to go, how are we going to make decisions? When are we going to make them? But Michael, not just understanding the difference between, say, home and work, and if home and work is one and the same things, you're right, that's got its own complications, but also understanding the difference in time. So, for example, I'm a morning person. Caroline is not. So if I grabbed Caroline when she first got out of bed and said, hey, I need to have this really strong business conversation with you, it would literally, I mean, she'd probably jump up and choke me, but it would literally go in one ear and out the other because she's just not ready. If she tried to have that conversation with me at 10 o'clock at night, I would be exactly the same. So we've got to understand each other's rhythm and understand how to get in sync with the rhythm for each other, Michael.
Fully agree with that. And it's much the same with Pam and me. I know that after 6 o'clock or so, she doesn't want to talk business. She doesn't want to talk other things. It's her time to relax and turn off. And to bring up something then only leads to a difficult conversation or a no in some ways. So that is important. Not just with life partners, but I guess with business partners, but also to be aware of your team members' emotions, Caroline.
Yeah, I think it's really important to see where your team are at. You have your regular weekly meetings, hopefully. And like you check in with your accountant about your business health, you should also check in on your staff and look at whether it's their mental health, whether it's their performance reviews and things like that. So yes, you should.
Now, Mark, you at Mastermind give really great tools to business owners and entrepreneurs, systems and processes to protect them. And how does this work by helping protect relationships?
Well, I think it's the same thing, Mike. It's about structure, right? So, I mean, one of the first things that we do when we're working with couples and things that we do in our couples and business workshops, for example, is we've got a thing we call the reset ritual, which is just about going, okay, where are you right now? Let's just reset things. Because often what happens is businesses just evolve over time. And you were saying before how, often it's split between one person being the front face of the business, one person being the back end of the business. We had a client probably about 2 years ago came to us in that position. And in fact, when we went through the reset process with them, we went through that ritual, and we've got a little thing called the CEO couple playbook where we essentially say to people, as a couple, you're the CEO of your business. Let's work out what that looks like. it turned out the best thing for that couple to do in that business was to actually swap roles.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the business just, it boomed. And the other thing, the argument stopped and they were much happier because they were actually out of sync because they weren't both in their genius zone. So getting to understand those really basic things and helping people to see that, and then having a clear path and process to move forward so that the conversations moving forward are at the right time about the right things in the right format, with the right agenda and outcome attached to them.
I guess that goes back to what you were saying a minute ago, Mark, that you need clear roles, responsibilities, and boundaries with those.
Yeah, and you do. You need boundaries, and you also need to understand that what's going to drain one person over another. When somebody's not in sync. I mean, we're very lucky, Michael, that the team that we work with, A, they know who to go to for what. B, they also know, and we know for each other when we're not quite. I know when Caroline's not quite on a game. She knows when I'm, and so rather than it being you need to pick yourself up and get back, Caroline will go, what can I take off you for these next few days so that you can get yourself back on track? And we'll do the same thing. And within a few days, things are reset and we're ready to go again.
That's where there are some advantages of working as a couple, whether you're a spouse, even siblings, brothers and sisters, people who understand and know each other. That's one of the real strengths of working in business together because you get it, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You've got that insight. So, I mean, Caroline, we pick those things up for each other, don't we?
Yeah, I often hold you accountable. I think you definitely do, and I think it's important to be able to do that. And you need to be able to do that for your team as well. If you see a team member that's struggling,
Yes.
you can just say to one of the other team, "Can you please take the workload off this?" Have that conversation, and at the end of the day, it does come about. It is all about conversation and acknowledgement, and just being in tune with those people around you.
What about big decisions when you're making big decisions in your business? How can couples avoid conflict and find that they can work together better?
Well, I just always agree with one partner. Mark just knows that he always has to agree with me.
Been waiting 15 years for that. You know what it is, Michael? I reckon it is about, we talk about the shared vision, right? And one of the tools we use is our shared vision map. But the reason we call it the map is that if you were going on a road trip and you are in absolute agreement as to where your destination is, in some ways it's less relevant how you get there. And you may, if you're sharing the driving, for example, you may choose to drive different distances or different hours, or you may even choose to take a slightly different route. But knowing that that's the destination, so that shared vision map is vitally important.
Now, I know that couples in businesses get real benefit from coaching with Mastermind Business Accelerator. I see that when once every 4 months we get together at the intensives, but you've actually opened the doors and given people an opportunity to have a sneak peek behind some of the tools, the systems, the lessons you learn, to give them an intensive one-day information about this. And you've called it the Aligned and Empowered Workshop. What made you put this together, Mark?
I think that we saw over time, Michael, that couples in business knew that they needed some help, but they often turned to each other. And the problem with turning to each other is you just lack that activity and that objectivity. You talk about Groundhog Day. When you turn to each other, sometimes you're just perpetuating the same frustrations. And so we saw that, and we also saw that we did a couple of one day sessions with some of our clients, and the clients I spoke about before where they swapped roles, that came out of that. And so we realized that if we can get a very small group of people in a room and they are all sort of have some shared wisdom, some collective momentum, and we know that they all want to be on the same page and they want to get to the growth in their business, we can kind of really work quite intensely with them and get them to walk away at the end of that day with a pretty clear plan.
Well, there's only one this year, and I think it's important to go along and get that, because really soon Christmas is going to come. Then we're going to start a brand new year, and people are going to want to do all sorts of things in their businesses. On Saturday, October the 18th, at the View Hotel in Hamilton in Brisbane, for between 9 and 4:30, you're running Aligned and Empowered for Couples in Business. This workshop, you can actually go to couplesinbusiness.com with some hyphens between. I'm going to leave a link in the show note to make it really easy for you to get that. But Mark, who should go? Who's it for?
Yep. I think it's for anybody who's running a service business, Michael, who's probably turning over somewhere around the $500,000 a year and beyond. And they're couples. So either they're married couples, They're life partners, they're brothers and sisters. We've had fathers and daughters and mothers and sons. But
Yes.
they're people who actually have that familial relationship outside of work. And so because it has a very different relationship. Michael, you and I are business partners, but I don't have to go home with you every night. So I don't have to see you every
Thank you.
weekend. So, you and I can we can have conversations, we can even have disagreements, but, we're not going to see each other for a
Yes.
couple of weeks, so we've got
Yes.
time to move
Yes.
on and rethink things.
That makes sense. So what are people going to get? Is it just not another talk fest?
No, I reckon there's 4 really big things they're going to walk away with. So the first thing we do is we're going to take them through the reset ritual, which is just a way of going, all right, where are you now? How do we reset things? How do we pull things back to like a ground zero and move forward from there? We've got a little exercise we do to find out the 3 signs that you're out of sync. So let's work out where the sync is missing and how to get them back on track. They'll walk away with a shared vision map. And that is really the big picture plan that says, hey, this is where we want to be and how we're going to get there.
That's very special.
Yeah, absolutely. We do that zone of strengths audit in the workshop as well, Michael. So that's just a little understanding. And people will walk out, and we've seen this when we've done these exercises where people have gone, I didn't realize that was a strength of yours and it's where you really want to be. I didn't know. We've been doing this for 10 years. Why didn't you tell me? And so things change dramatically after that point. And then finally on that point is what we call our clarity conversation script, which is a really simple process to help people have very clear conversations about business with somebody that they're in that relationship with.
Well, I can highly recommend it because I know the benefit of having business coaches, and that you and Caroline have been coaches, not just to me, but to the whole management team and actually the whole team at Metropole. You've been my coach for over a decade, Mark. So if people want to share it, if people ask me what was some of the reasons for the success of Metropole growing from our home office with Pam and me to a national company, and it is actually having a business coach who's actually sees our blind spot but brings out the strengths in us. So that's the aim of it. So people are going to go home with actionable results. It's not just a talk fest, Mark.
No, they're going to walk away with a plan, Caroline, aren't they? They're going to walk away with and by the way, it's not going to be this massive big document that we know then goes and sits on the shelf and gathers dust. It's very simple, very clear, actionable things that when they leave on Saturday, come Monday morning, because they're not going to talk about it on Sunday, come Monday morning, they'll be able to go into their business and implement it immediately. And within the next week, they're actually going to see some real tangible changes in their business.
I think that the implementation part of a workshop is something it's a deal breaker, and it separates just a good workshop from a great workshop, because we go to workshops, learn a bunch of stuff, and you put it on your shelf and you just go, oh, that was really interesting. You might pull something out in 6 months' time. But with this particular one, with this workshop, you will have a bunch of things that you can do, like Mark said, every Monday, and you will be aligned with that, which would be great.
I think it's going to set up businesses to take advantage of the new phase of the economic cycle. Australia's sorting itself out. Inflation's coming under control. Business confidence is increasing as well. So it's to set yourself up to take advantage of what Australia's got to offer.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing, Michael, the reason that we've chosen to run it in October is that this is a great opportunity now to start setting yourself up for a super successful 2026.
Yes.
The last thing you want to do is think about 2026 in January when a lot of people do their planning, but they're behind the 8 ball. So if we can get this right in October, November, we put it into place, and we have family time at Christmas time or the end of the year, whatever you might celebrate. And then we're ready to go. 2026, we hit the ground running, rubber meets the road nicely. Everybody's on the same page.
I think you've created habits between now and
Good.
the end of the year.
Yes.
You've created
Good
really
point.
good, healthy habits
Good point.
before you get
Yeah,
started.
good point.
Well, I can highly recommend it because I know the benefit I get when I do the one-day workshops or the couple of day intensives with you, and that our team have and many, many clients have. So if you're in business with somebody who's part of your family, as Mark said, please go along. I'm going to leave a link in the show notes because you're probably riding, walking, exercising while you're listening to this. So it's couplesinbusiness.com. But I'll leave a link in the show notes. Hey, it's only a couple of weeks away. So set aside the time, Saturday, 18th of October at the View Hotel in Hamilton in Brisbane. Airfares are cheap at that time of the year. So even if you're not in Queensland, this is the only opportunity you're going to have to do it this year. So just hop and get a cheap airfare. You can even do it for a day. It's actually not too hard, but take it easy. Enjoy overnight. Actually, that's probably not a bad idea, Mark, isn't it? To actually then have the next day to unwind as a couple?
Yeah, we've already got a couple of couples. I got some notices this morning, a couple of couples joining us up from Melbourne already, Michael. So, and that's what they're going to do. So they're going to fly in on Friday night, spend Saturday with us, and they're going to take Sunday to just relax and enjoy the sights and the warmth in Brisbane.
I'm not an accountant. I'm not allowed to give advice, but I think that weekend away would be tax deductible, Mark. So why not let Anthony Albanese pay for your weekend away with your spouse?
100%. That's exactly right, Michael.
So, Mark and Caroline, thank you for joining me today. It's actually been good to hear how the two of you have not only navigated the challenges of being in business together, but also how you've actually turned the experience into a framework to help other couples as well. So to our listeners and viewers, remember, being in business with your partner doesn't mean you've got to sacrifice your relationship. If anything, we want to actually make it better. So if you've got clarity, a shared vision, the right systems in place, you really can have a thriving business and a thriving partnership. So thanks, Caroline and Mark, and I look forward to hearing the successes of the Aligned in Empowerment workshop in Brisbane. I'm not going to be there because Pam and I are going to be enjoying an overseas trip, a cruise. But again, that's the benefits we have now of having worked through as a partnership in business.
Yeah, 100%. Michael, enjoy that trip.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing all about it.
Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
See you guys.
Each show, I share with you a property trivia question and give you, my listeners and viewers, an opportunity to win a hard copy of one of my best-selling books. And I'm now giving away what every property investor needs to know about finance, tax and the law. I've written the book with Ken Race. So I'm going to ask you a question. True or false? It'll be easy. Go to propertytrivia.com.au. I'll leave a link in the show notes. Enter your answer. And each week, 3 correct answers will win a hard copy of the book. Don't worry if you're listening to a slightly older episode, your entry will still count, and everyone gets an updated property report. So this week's question is true or false? You can see the Great Wall of China from the moon. True or false? You can see the Great Wall of China from the moon. Go to propertytrivia.com.au, leave us your answer, and you'll have a chance to win a copy of what every property investor needs to know about finance, tax, and the law.
Now here's Michael's mindset message. Remember, a change in your thinking will lead to a change in your life.
My mindset message to you today is these are the good old days. I was looking back at the property markets of a couple of decades ago, just chatting with a friend, and found myself saying, hey, wouldn't it be good to go back to the good old days? One of the things I catch myself saying is, hey, remember the good old days when we used to? Well, here's the truth. One day we're going to look back at this very week and call it the good old days too. The problem is we rarely recognize it in the moment. As Andy Bernard from The Office once said, I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you actually left them. Now, that's a real skill, but I've been practicing it over the years to actually notice when I'm in the good old days and soak it in fully. So here's my reminder to you and to myself. The life you're living in right now will one day be the life you miss. Don't just reminisce, recognize it while it's happening. I know it's starting to sound like something old people say. Maybe it's because I've crossed over to the other side of 70 a while ago. But if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Make the most of the time you have and enjoy as much of it as you can while you're in the best parts of it. Because these are the good old days. Thank you for spending the last little while with me. I hope you got some benefit from this show. But before you move on to the next podcast you're going to listen to, let me remind you I have another show that I produce once a week with leading demographer Simon Kirstenmacher. We call that Demographics Decoded, where Simon and I unveil the trends that are going to shape your future. In my mind, this is a must-listen-to podcast for anyone interested in property investment, but also for business people and entrepreneurs. So if you don't currently subscribe to Demographics Decoded, just please stop for a second and subscribe on your podcast app where you're listening to this or on YouTube. And of course, if you don't subscribe to this show, the Michael Yardley Podcast, why not click the link that says follow or subscribe wherever you're listening right now. So twice a week, you're going to get benefit from my guests and me. And I'd like to ask you a little favour, please. If you did enjoy today's show and you know somebody who would also benefit, please tell them about the Michael Yardley Podcast and Demographics Decoded. There's a share button on every podcast app. On Apple Podcast, there are 3 little buttons at the top of the player. Or just tell them about it. Just have a chat with them. Now, I hope you're going to be doing them a favour, and you're definitely going to be doing me a favour in my quest to help as many people as possible to become financially literate. And by the way, I've got a special bonus for you. As my way of saying thank you for subscribing, just go to podcastbonus.com.au. There'll be a link in the show notes, podcastbonus.com.au, where I've got a bunch of ebooks and reports. It's just my way of saying thank you for taking the time to listen. And remember, the information that we give you in this podcast is general information, not specific information about your personal circumstances, because we don't know about them. But if you do want specific information, you can always have a chat with my team at Metropole. Go to metropole.com.au. If you really want to learn more, you can always listen to the previous podcast, the many episodes we've already published. Just go back to the old episodes, which each have lessons about property investment, success, and money. Once again, thanks for listening to today's show.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Michael Yardney podcast, which was brought to you by Metropole, who help their clients grow, protect, and pass on their wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. If you like what you heard and don't already subscribe, you'll find us on iTunes or on your favourite Android app as the Michael Yardney podcast. Watch out for our next show, which comes to you twice a week, and you'll learn some new ideas about property investment, success, and money in around 30 minutes. To get more of Michael's thoughts, go across to www.propertyupdate.com.au and sign up for his daily morning briefing, and you'll hear from not only Michael, but a group of leading property success and money experts. And just a reminder that the information you heard in this show today is general educational advice and not specific investment advice, as we don't know your personal circumstances. If you're looking for specific advice, why not ask the team at Metropole to help you?